Hi, this is Pete Lyons with Let's Play Salesforce, and in today's Tableau CRM video, we're going to be talking about spoilers for the Spring 22 release. But before we get into that, we have a brief word from our sponsors. So some of you may be wondering what this ocean of chaos surrounding me is, and I assure you we will get to that. But the answer actually starts about 7 years ago. So in January of 2015, I had never heard of Salesforce. At the time, I was working as a baker in the best Italian restaurant in Buffalo, Ristorante Lombardo. And I had been there for about 7 years, and I had spent 5 of those years teaching myself how to build computers. I had an amateur repair business. I would even do crazy stuff like bake video cards in my oven to reflow solder damage successfully, I might add. I probably e-scrapped about 600 towers, made about $4 grand on the side, my best year. But that's a very lucrative hobby and not a career. I did get very lucky and was discovered by Raj Suchek, former owner of Cloud 62, a small silver level Salesforce partner in Buffalo. He now has a company called Gritseed. Make sure and check it out. It's all about hiring for grit, and it's not about what's on your resume. It's about what you can do and what you can learn. And he has a great application associated with that. This is not an official, like, I'm not actually sponsored by him or anything. I'm just a big fan of what he does. But Raj gave me my chance, and I worked my last day as a baker on Valentine's of 2015, and I haven't looked back since. And it's been a wild ride. I was awarded Salesforce MVP. I've got this nice little YouTube channel that you've probably heard of, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. I actually am very happy with the work I do at my company, whose name I never say on the channel, because, then they would be, well, I mean, my thoughts are my own. This is a hobby. It's commentary, not documentation. So, yeah. So what is all this chaos? Like, what is all this mess? And where is my basic blue background that some of you may be used to seeing? The answer is my journey's taken me far enough that I've actually bought my first home. I'm super excited. Everything's all up in the air, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So I want to thank everybody that has watched my videos, that has learned from them, and has given me any kind of support. You guys are like rocket fuel to my journey. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for people, encouraging me and benefiting from the knowledge that I have to share. And, like I said, I don't monetize. I do this to, give thanks to the community that made it possible for me to develop the skills that allowed me to buy a freaking house. I mean, how cool is that? It's pretty cool for me. So that out of the way, we're going to have a little bit more of an abbreviated release season this year. I'm not going to be doing a million videos. I'm about 3 weeks late getting this one out. I've got content that's been sitting in development hell for several months now, just with everything being up in the air. But I assure you, we will be getting back to a little bit more of a regular cadence. I know I don't upload all that often, but we'll have some more release content for the summer release than we are for this one. This one's going to be a little bit lighter. So that out of the way, let's get on to some spoilers. We now have a new section for data prep settings. For now, it's just got this fiscal year, which we'll talk about in just a second, but I imagine that we're going to see more and more features starting to get allocated to this area. Perhaps some of the regular settings will move into here, but only time will tell. So let's take a look at this fiscal year configuration. Now, for those of you who don't know, configuring fiscal offsets in analytics can actually be kind of a pain in the butt. It has to be done for every field on a given data set through the XMD. So my gut is telling me that this is probably just going to give us a global org-wide fiscal configuration that's going to translate to all of our data sets. Now, if you have a data set that has a fiscal offset that's in conflict with this, not sure how that's going to be handled. And right now, this is just the standard. So if you got like the 454 or any of that crazy stuff, it's not going to be supported, but we can choose whether, which month it is, and whether that's the beginning of a year or the ending of a year. And my understanding is that is going to apply to all data sets in the org. So we'll skip over permission sets and settings, as I didn't see anything more than a little bit of stuff getting renamed. Looks like that's all pretty much the same. But the next thing that's really cool is we now have the new beta data manager, which was part of data pipelines. And we did see this a preview of this last release when we were talking with Gary. But a lot of different options here. So we've got our job monitor, which now categorizes as succeeded, failed, warning, running, queued. I'd also like to be able to see some type options. So maybe we do have some stuff like that. So, oh yeah, actually, look at that. We totally do. So a lot of times, like if we've got a lot of replication that's running, it can make it really hard to find what you're looking for. So this is going to help us kind of filter down and just see like, trending performance of a given data flow so we can monitor, is it reasonable to go to sub-hourly scheduling, for example. Then also, finally, without going to the get started page, I can actually tell you how many rows that we're using, what we've output to Salesforce, and what we're outputting to CSV. So then we've got our assets tab. This is all of our different data sets, be they data sets, our connected objects, live data sets, and staged data sets, which it looks like staged data sets are going, if not GA, that they are going at a minimum beta. I did not see anything about this in the release notes. Then our connections, we actually have two different flavors for connections. Then under recipes, we've got our recipes right here. So one thing I'm a little bit worried about is how do I get to my data flow editor? I don't know. I'm a little worried. They better let me have that thing. Like, where are my data flows? It's actually a little bit worrisome. So we'll have to figure that out. Certainly hope that they're not just turning off data flows. I kind of doubt it. So then this is the legacy connector option, which pretty much looks like the connector tab in the classic data manager. But then we also have this connections beta, which is super cool. So I can see my input connectors, my YouTube connector that I never did get working, but I can look into all the different objects that I can track with that. In my SFTC local connection, I've got, different object options right here. I like this. We can just kind of go through and check the objects that we want to include. And then, we can choose which columns we want to include in replication. Then we also have our output connectors. And if we take a look, if we manage any of the connectors, we can choose between our inputs. One thing to call out is that we do have this new HubSpot connector that is in beta. Then we've got our output connectors, and I believe
Post-production Pete here, realizing that I missed a feature as I'm hanging out there on that output screen, wondering why I have nothing to say. It's actually because I was expecting to see an output connector to Azure in beta.
none of these are new. That's right. It's on the next page. Then we've got our live connectors, and we now have this Salesforce CDP direct connector. There's a lot to unpack with this one. Not going to lie, don't really know a ton about it. Only thing else that's kind of sticking out is it looks like the text does kind of run over a little bit. I'm not sure if that's due to font scaling or anything along those lines. I am in Chrome at 100% right now at 1080 resolution. So not sure if that's a bug or that's my display being a jerk, but one of those two things appears to be the case. So then we do have some stuff to take a look at in the recipe builder. No idea where my data flows went. I'm a little anxious about that. I'm sure they're around here somewhere. But now we do have, let's see. So I'm just going to grab some input data here. Go to next. So now we have a couple of additional transformations. We have the new update transformation, which appears to be just what we had in data flow editor to begin with, where we can basically match on some keys and overwrite values within a given column.
Hey guys, post-production Pete again. So apparently there's supposed to be a new cross-join feature. I'm not seeing this in the join options in my GS0 org. Technically, this has been possible through outer joins where you set the join key to something that is the same for all rows for a while now. Nice to see that we actually just have a button for it. Be mindful that as powerful as this is, it's going to completely blow up the size of your data set, as the output rows are going to be the number of rows on the left multiplied by the number of rows on the right.
Then we also have some zoom options right here. If we click into them, we can zoom in a lot on our one and only node. We can zoom out pretty far on our one and only node. and we can also fit to screen. So this will make it a little bit easier. There's also an auto layout function, which I'm not entirely sure how it works, but if you got a whole bunch of sloppy nonsense going on, like I'm just gonna add a filter on here and see if I can just get something going. Count owner ID equals this thing over here, Dunzo, apply. Wow, that zoom really zooms. Zoom to fit, zoom out. Now maybe I can get it to auto layout the auto layout. Can we do that? Yep. I have no idea how to do this auto layout. But yeah, apparently it's a thing. Don't know how to use it. That's fine. It's all a learning process. Now, another thing I've heard about is that let's see, the time series apparently has gotten some love. And my understanding is that it does a lot of the stuff that you used to do manually. It'll do automatically now as well. But I haven't really messed around with time series in Data Prep 3.0 too much yet. So I can't really tell you specifically what changed, but apparently some things changed. We can make this nice and wide or way too tight. That's kind of cool. I think we already had that though. But now I'm going to add a formula. So output is going to be numeric, and come down here. We're going to show results in a new column. Whatever column that you are on to begin with, so count ID, it's going to name it account ID underscore formula by default, which is actually really obnoxious. But now we can actually change the API name. Previously, the only way that I found to do this was to drop into JSON and do it there. So then additionally, now we're going to hop back over into Analytics Studio. Yeah, so it looks like we do have the legacy data manager. Oh, so relieved. Where would I be without my, fancy multi-test data flow? A little bit more concerned about client-facing instances, but good to know that we can still get to data flows. Curious to how they're going to show up in the data manager beta. But let's see here. So if we go to our template gallery.
Production Pete again. The new templates are called Understanding Your Pipeline with New Customer Insights Pipeline Trending Waterfall Chart and the Energy and Utility Sales Processes app.
So then let's hop into the dashboard editor. So one thing I'm super pumped about is the repeater widget. And I actually did have the opportunity to be part of the pilot for this. Right now here, we'll just, hey, I got a table, isn't that boring? It's the data we need, right? Okay, well, would you like it as a chart? No, not really. So what are we to do? We need something a little more decorative than this. So enter the repeater. Give this guy some room to breathe. And let's take a look. So I'm going to use this existing query lens 1, or you can create a new query on the fly. But basically it does have to be tabular. And so now I'm going to start building out a card here. And first I have this dynamic query editor. This is the same dynamic text editor we always have. Card name. And then we'll hit Dunzo there. But we don't want to see add text card name. And then I can add some more query data, like the suit, for example. And then, hey, what about some numbers? How about a number widget? If I can get it to land on the screen. So we'll get a 1 if it's an ace, we'll get a 0 if it's not. Then maybe I want a chart on here. And before you get too excited, one thing to be mindful of, if you're thinking like, you could have like, period over period, like timelines and stuff. For now, you're restricted to chart types that support a single measure and no grouping. So the chart types that are available to us are the gauge, the polar gauge, the flat gauge, and the bullet. And I don't know how I changed the KPI on this one. I'm not going to lie. Oh, there we go. I want the value column. So for an ace, that's going to be 1. And we'll set our range values to a maximum of 10. So on a scale of 1 to 10, still a 1. Then this is kind of groovy. How about this guy? Choose a field that has images. There's our, wow. You're a big fella, aren't you? So we'll fit the width on this. Maybe get a little bit more breathing room. There we go. Now we can also view the query properties here. Once we got our styles and everything configured, you can also control the number of grid squares that are available within the repeater component itself. I'm actually going to reduce the number of columns because I want this thing to go full width. And then we're going to frink-a-dink this guy on down here. Card style, we can choose background colors, borders, etc. Then the selected card, you'll see what that is in just a minute here. So now we've got one card per row of data. Then additionally, let's see, content layout. Let's do items per row with 4. Now we've got cards for days. So let me, no, still can't figure out how to, there we go. Edit repeater content. So now the card's resized itself to the number of columns I told it I want. There we go. Now you're looking groovy. And it'll kind of resize itself to, you know, what works. So a lot of this scroll bar is going to go away. Row height, this is very similar to the standard layout editor. Go ahead, donezo. Now we got cards that fit. Still trying to figure out what we do about these scroll bars here. No idea. No idea. I got 1, 2, 3 scroll bars plus a scroll bar per card. Not a fan of scroll bars, but you know, hopefully this is just, you know, a low level glitch that's being addressed. Honestly, couldn't tell you. Have to talk to them about that. So then we've also got our standard widget style that exists outside of the card style, and onboarding if people need tutorials for how to understand what this sort of layout is. So again, it's tabular data. We're going to get one card per row of data. So in this case, I should have, you know, I imagine I've got like 13 rows here. And then the scroll bar is for the container or for the repeater itself. This is pretty groovy for like stack ranking your teams. I'm still seeing a little bit of bugginess in how it renders. Like, I don't know if you guys can see the images moving, kind of adjusting themselves sideways a little bit. But this is definitely making some good progress. So next item that we want to take a look at is back to our basic boring table. Basic boring tables. Notice this, basic boring tables now support text wrapping, which to me is just a huge improvement. And something I get from my clients a lot. So let's see where these options are in here. Yeah, so on the header, we have the ability to choose whether or not to wrap the text. Within the cells, we have the ability to choose whether or not to wrap the text. My understanding is this replaces the functionality for how many rows to give it, because then, like, you know, let's say that only one of your rows needs like 5 lines, everything else is all neatly, you know, fits on one line. You'd end up with a whole bunch of white space to see your table. So let's see if we can actually get some functionality going here. So I'm just going to grab a random old data set. I'm going to switch to SACWL. So now we're going to call that lens 2, and we're going to drag a table widget onto the screen, and we're going to see how well this performs for us. So looks like, yeah, by default, that did know to wrap itself. And the column header also wrapped itself. Oh, I got to union these. Otherwise, we don't get to see both of them. So our short text has that really nice short text. Our long text has really long text, and it actually spaces out the row neatly. And then let's see if this works the way I think it does. How cool is that? We can now actually just declare the column headers or the column widths the way that you would expect to, just by dragging. So, you know, hey, you really want that big of a column for your number? No, it's a number. You can make it really tiny. Do it however you want. So also a little curious to see the JSON footprint on this. So it's either going to be living in here. Let's see. Oh, no, we're calling out the width right here. That's cool. I was a little worried it was going to be stored in asset XMD and we wouldn't be able to edit it. But I imagine we may potentially be able to make this dynamic. Typically, even if we wanted to go to like a specific URL in Salesforce, in our Salesforce instance, we would still have to include the back half of the URL. So in this case, I got https:// how about a sandwich -dev-ed.lightning.force.com. And where this can create problems is when you're migrating between environments. So for example, maybe that link to take you to the account list view, or click here to create a new account, or my custom reports, whatever you're linking to in a Salesforce environment, you'd have to have that backside of the URL that's going to determine your instance. And as you move from sandbox to production, that URL is going to change. So one trick that I use to get around that, we can actually see that in action on this lens one, is right here. For me, this is all being built out by a formula. So this is part of my blackjack build. You can drop it in any org, and a formula is going to construct this relative URL, or this non-relative URL for you. But now these do accept relative URLs. So for example, if I just start something off with a slash, the right kind of slash that is, and we'll do like 001, which is the prefix for accounts. So this should therefore take me to the list view page for accounts. Let's try it out. Does it work? Hello, Ruth. Yes, it does. It takes me to my default account list view. Previously, it would just throw an error if you gave it anything except HTTP or HTTPS right here. Now, one thing I think we would need to put some tooltips in there. Otherwise, it's just going to show that URL. But the other thing is that this is now dynamic and will accept bindings. The truth is, it's always been dynamic and it's always accepted bindings, but officially you binding into this parameter was not supported. No guarantees it's ever actually going to work. I never had any problems with it, but I mostly just used it to fart around and have fun. So can't really weigh in on that. So a couple other highlights to cover is all about Einstein discovery. Specifically, just the couple that I wanted to shout out was multi-class classification, how that's supported in flows. A lot of really cool stuff, but I'm hoping I might be able to get a video with Bobby on some short notice. It wouldn't feel right to do release coverage without having Bobby on the channel. So I don't officially have anything planned with him. But if you see the video pop up in the next week or so, that means that we did connect and we did make a video. And if you don't, that means that we did not. So that's all the spoilers that I have for tonight. And once again, just thank you to everybody. This community is amazing. And all the support that I've been shown and all the opportunities that I've been given to help other people. And, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, tell a friend. And as always, thanks for watching.